Hey, everybody. Welcome and thank you for tuning in. We look forward to this conversation today, don't we, Anna?
Yes.
And I think it'll be beneficial for all of you out there tuning in. By way of introduction, I'm going to introduce myself and then my guest, and then we'll get going in this really great conversation. Look, nonprofit leaders are tasked with solving deep systemic problems, often with little support, no direction, and a shoestring budget. You folks out there that are nonprofit people, you work every day to make the world a better place, and we are very grateful for you. Um, at Libby V and Associates, we like to help nonprofit leaders make a bigger difference, and so does Anna, by the way. We meet you at whatever stage of success you're in, and we ensure that you make it the rest of the way. We are your advocates. So I'm Libby V, and we like to work with our clients in a variety of ways, but sometimes it ends up being visioning and strategy work, leadership, development, fundraising support and help, organizational board development. And our nonprofit leader clients have more impact once they work with us, and they go from feeling hesitant, uncertain, and overwhelmed to being more confident, proud, and empowered with more balance in their lives. And that's what you all need. We all need. But not all of you can afford to hire a consultant. So I created the Nonprofit Coffee Talk as a way to provide some great content, access to some really good guests with helpful information for as many nonprofit people as possible. So I hope you find it useful. Always open to your suggestions about topics or guests, even if that means you'd like to be a guest. So let me know if that is the case. Okay, now, with all that said, I am so excited to have today as a guest Anna Bitters of Anna Bitters LLC, and she is here to discuss how powerful clarity, creativity, and connection can be in the nonprofit space. So, welcome, Anna.
Hello, hello.
Anna, I love your bio. I'm so excited to read it. I love it. I'm thrilled that I get to read it again. So here it goes. Anna Bitters is a neurospicy creative squirrel who loves to dream up the next big idea. Born out of a need to accommodate her own neurodivergence, she founded her business on kindness, compassion, curiosity, and connection. As a wayfinding coach, Anna acts as a confidant and guide, helping creative business owners shift from not knowing what to do next to being on a path that feels super right for them. And that includes nonprofits too, and I know that to be a fact. Um, so we're going to get going on this conversation. Please ask questions. So post your questions in whatever format you're on, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and we'll answer those as they come in, and I'll monitor those. So, all right, here we go. Anna,
Yes.
tell us about getting clarity and through creativity and connection and how that helps in the nonprofit space. And that's a really broad question, but let's just
Yeah.
jump right in and chat.
We love really big open-ended questions. We never know where it'll take us, right?
Right.
I love alliteration, so that's why a lot of C's come into play. I really want to be like Anna Bitter's Co. So it could be like community, connection, all the things, right?
Ooh, I love
Um,
that.
but I think what I'm seeing the most in the for-profit and the nonprofit space is we're inundated with advice and strategy, and you should be doing it this way, and you've got to do it at this pace or this place, or it has to look and feel a certain way. And for some people, those things that are being suggested work for them. And so it's great. They kind of pick up these different pieces or strategies and they move forward with them. But when those strategies don't work for you, whether it's because you're doing business differently, your values and integrity are different than the person who's teaching that method or has succeeded at that method, or maybe it's a neurodivergence from doing business or life in that way, it can feel like you're broken, right? Like, but that person succeeded at following these 10 steps. Why can't I? And so clarity is more than just like figuring out where you're going. And I love my kids obsessed with Moana right now. And Maui talks about wayfinding. He's like, wayfinding isn't like where you're going, it's knowing where you've been so you know where you're going. And so for me, clarity is being honest with yourself and non-judgmental in a way that can say, here are some things we tried, this felt good, this didn't. Let's use that to inform the things we do, as opposed to like, this person has had success with me, clients in my sector. Why am I not seeing the results? Like throwing away
Yes.
all the shouldas and getting really clear on what lights you up, what drives you forward, what works for you.
That's great. So it just reminded me of this conversation I had with my client, one of my clients. This is Thursday, so yesterday. I'm all messed up this week. I don't know about you, but all day yesterday I
Throw
thought
a holiday in and everything gets scrambled.
oh yeah. So anyway, he's trying to figure out like what position he needs to hire next and what the org chart should be and stuff like that. And I said to him, I challenge you to write a list of the things that you need this person to do, write a list of things that you hate to do, write a list of things you love to do, write a list of things. Like, we don't have to be in a box of it's got to be this job title and this job description. Like, let's just figure out like what is gonna, you need somebody to compliment you, right? So it's not quite getting to your point, but that reminded me of that came into my head. It's like,
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
we don't have to do it in a cookie cutter way. Let's just think about what works for you. Like what,
Especially if you're early on and you need a little of this, you need a little of this, and you need a little.
Yes.
That's not going to look like a company that has 10,000 employees and has a requisition open for a role. Like if you copy that model, you're going to get somebody who can do maybe those things really, really well, but maybe you have half of that skill set.
Yeah.
And you don't need a full.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was like, let's not get bogged down with the job title. Let's figure, who cares? Like, let's just figure out what you need somebody to be able to do. What kind of person do you need like that? So I think often we do try to cookie cutter approach and apply some kind of methodology. Like, here you go, here it is, right? You got to do it this way. Like, no, we're all different. Let's think about it for real. Like, be honest and for real. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're not interrupting. I think Squirrel. It's all part of it. Squirrel. No, I mean, the reason I know Squirrel might throw people off in a bio that's supposed to be like, you're a professional, right? Like, you're doing business, you're making money in this space where people respect your opinions and advice and da 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 da. It's like, how can you go towards this idea of squirrely, right? We think of squirrels as just being whatever. But there was this one time I read a fact about the North American forests and how squirrels burying acorns and forgetting where 75% of them are buried have created like most of our forests on this continent. And it's
like, love that.
You're tearing yourself up as a creative person with all these ideas because you're not making a tree or following through on an idea. You can just kind of remember that it's like, it's okay to forget where you left your acorns and still like move forward, right?
Yeah, we don't necessarily follow a linear path, but that doesn't mean that we're not carving a path that's really important and meaningful and leads to incredible results, right? Like it's yeah.
So
I love that.
There's a lot of big hearts in the nonprofit space and creative energy of just like, I want to help as many people as I can. So I need to do these 10,000 different things and split my energy in all these different directions.
True.
And you can have variety. Like, it's not a this or that, either or. It's like a both and. Like, you can have enough variety depending on your capacity for what you can keep track of, without it being super, super niche or like concentrated. And then you don't have to go the complete opposite way where you have no structure or no theme kind of driving your stuff forward.
Yeah.
So,
and I think, I wanted to chat a little bit, if you don't mind, and you can answer it as quickly or as lengthy as you want to, but, I'm neurodivergent as well, right? And so I have a hard time sort of sometimes creating a structure. I can do it for my clients, but I'm not as good doing it for myself, but I thrive in it. And so Talk a little bit about like how important that is and how that works and how do you
Yeah.
deal with that, if you don't mind.
Oh, no, I don't mind at all. And like, some terms that I use that help me in that neurodivergent space are ideas like time blindness, which we were talking about a little bit before going live here, or this idea of dyspraxia. These labels are just as useful as they were created, right? And for insurance purposes. But if something you're doing lines up with other people that experience something similar and it helps you live a better life, then that's a valuable label that you can incorporate into your identity. If it's something that just makes you feel broken, like you can't accomplish anything, then it's doing the opposite, right? It's that disabled genre versus like, what you can do. And there are real limitations to all of our experiences, whatever we've got going on. But for me, if it's, thinking differently, first I had to be aware of it, right? As somebody who is very neurospicy and excited about new things, I want to jump into action. I want to start taking action because action feels good and it gives me the happy brain chemicals to keep going forward. But you need to stop and pause and make sure you have awareness. I use 3 A's: awareness, acceptance, action. Because you can be aware of it and still not be able to take action if you're like going, I refuse to believe that I can't keep track of time without an alarm going, right? You're like, I'm just going to forget the fact that I'm time blind and I'm just not going to use alarms. And then you might get burned on that. But if you are aware of it, you accept it, and you start creating a different structure, like work sessions, right? So like if you're having trouble with your team and having meetings and everybody's like on the same page in that meeting, and then you leave that meeting and you come back a week or 2 weeks later and you come back and the people haven't done the things we all committed to do, you might be surrounded by other neurospicy squirrels who could use a work session where you guys, you're listening to your music or whatever, But yeah. And I like to use the analogy of like the hair salon, right?
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
I can't cut my own hair, so I pay somebody to do that.
Yeah.
If I feel like I can't create structure and organization in my business, but I'm able to help others do that, would I be like, I'm a bad hairdresser because I can't cut my own hair, right?
Right.
So, you need to be able to have some of that. A third point in there is I like to talk about my like future self and past self. Like, thanks, past Anna. You really set me up for success here by like making a sandwich at the beginning of the day that you forgot about.
I love that.
Or like, the heck with you, future Anna, like, or past Anna, you don't tell me what to do. You put something on my calendar and I'm not going to do that. Right. So it's like kind of like living in all of that ambiguity and just trying things on and finding things that work for you. So if it works for you to have somebody that puts a little bit of structure on your business that feels good, but you don't put so much that you resist doing anything, like that's finding that good mixture of team, somebody that questions your dopamine driven direction, but also like helps you get the things done that they know are going to be the most impactful.
Yeah, I love it. So one of the things that you mentioned, that we might talk about is this notion of fostering connections, which contributes to growth, and what that is. I wonder if that's kind of connected to why some of us really are so much more efficient if we're co-working or, working in a work session, in a meeting, or whatever it is. Can you talk a little bit about how connections can contribute to growth?
Once my cat is done sneezing. You all right, buddy? We love our animals here at the Nonprofit Coffee Talk. Yeah, so if you're looking at it in a neurodivergent space, you might find the word body doubling in there, right? So this idea that like being even next to another human, like if you've ever tried to clean up a room by yourself versus having another human, even if they're just like sitting there. This works for my husband and I. Like, I want to make a meal. I like cooking. I enjoy the process, but it's really easy for me to like start the oven and have a pan and then an hour later be like, oh, the oven's on and the pan's there, but I didn't do the next thing. So I'll be like, hey, can you body double with me in the kitchen? And he'll just take whatever he was doing and sit there and do it. So like finding out who the people are in your life that will make you work. Sometimes as a neurospicy squirrel, we bring our squirrely energy together and we just get distracted on tangents and we don't accomplish the stuff we're doing. And so that's where a little bit of structure could be useful, right? Just setting some timers or making some agreements. For example, on, once or twice a month, we'll go to a library. I call them focus sessions. They're free to attend. You can find them on my website. A link to the Eventbrite to grab a ticket for that if you wanted to. But essentially, we just go to a library and we agree that we're going to get our talkies out, do a little brain dump, do a work sprint, get our talkies out, do a work sprint, get our and like everybody knows that we've got like 3 30-minute chunks to get the stuff done we don't want to do outside of that community. And once a month isn't going to be enough to run your whole organization with just that. But it's being in that community and getting that energy to keep going when it's harder to do that alone, especially if you're independent or most of your team is fractional and you're sort of peerless in being this leader of whether it's a nonprofit or a consultancy. It can feel very isolating at the top there. We can get into those trends of doing the client work without doing the work that needs to be done to keep growing our vision. And so creating opportunities for people to hold you accountable to a small deliverable and then letting your distraction flag fly and then going back in, and that can be useful. Did that address kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah. And I feel the need to point out, like, it's not that, accountability, I think, gets a bad rap. Like, people think, oh, I need somebody. I don't need anybody like hovering over me to see that I'm doing my work. It's not that. It's that if you have an accountability buddy or partner, it just keeps it there. It keeps it top of mind. It keeps you focused on getting it done. Right. Like, I think that there's people hear that word and they're thinking something negative a lot often, and it's not.
It depends on what accountability has been for them in the past, right? If it's been punitive, then it's got a negative connotation with it. But if really what happens is sometimes we're more worried about, we're ruminating about the past or we're worrying about the future. But when we are present, sometimes we're so present that we don't remember that things are better or things could get worse. And so if we're really, really focused, like hyper focused in the moment, you might be so focused on supporting your team or your clients that you forget that there are other things you aspire to have or accomplish. And so just having another human, because we're communal beings, right? Like if we all lived independently in little pods and didn't interact, we would die out as a species, right? So knowing that we're communal and giving yourself permission to like be with other people or supported by other people. We have such a fierce independence that is promoted in our society that we can push away stuff. Like I challenge all of my clients to think about what somebody might describe as their competition as something that could be complementary or collaborative. Because even though it's like, let's say you have another nonprofit consultant in your sphere. If you were like, I can't share what I'm doing with them, I can't hear what they're doing because it would, jeopardize my differentiation. You're missing the point that like there are people that are going to love that person and there are people that are going to love Libby, and there's enough in that space for everyone to find their people.
Yeah. I mean, if there's one thing I've learned about myself lately, it's that I thrive in collaboration. Like I need it. And if I try to do things just all by myself, it's frustrating and it's harder. And so I thrive in it. And I think people would too, if they just let down their guard a little and say, we could end up with a better thing if we collaborated than I could come up with myself.
But you can also take that to an extreme, right? You can take it to an extreme where it's like you're relying on all of these external people or support or consultants or contractors, whomever you're hiring to support you, and waiting for them to tell you how to
Yes.
execute on your vision.
Yeah.
So it's
It's a
a
balance.
give and take, right? You have to,
Yeah,
it's
for
helpful to
sure.
get clear on why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
You have the power of why, or exploring your values. Because at the end of the day, whether you're running a nonprofit or a for-profit consultancy, like, you have to know where you want to go,
Mhm.
right? Or else you're
Mhm.
just making decisions going, maybe this will work. Like, there's a time for throwing
Mhm.
spaghetti at the wall, but
Yep.
like, that spaghetti at the wall as a business model is going to be even harder.
Yeah, I mean, you can go down any rabbit hole and it feels like you're getting something done, but is it leading you where you wanna get to or where you wanna
Mhm.
go? Yeah, that's important.
Mhm.
I think of nonprofit leaders too, like that's that's a very solitary role. It can be, I don't wanna say lonely because I don't wanna attach emotions to it necessarily, but, an alone kind of role, right?
Yeah, it can
Because
be
you have
isolating,
it
yeah.
is, you have this board, they're your boss, right? And then you have people that are staff members,
Mhm.
and, I feel like
Donors. You're
and
trying to
donors.
make
Yes, and it's like, they're all kind of surrounding, but they don't very often overlap with the executive director or CEO of a nonprofit. So, I don't know if you have thoughts about it's the same with business owners. You work with a lot of both,
Mhm.
for-profit business owners, entrepreneurs, and nonprofit
Yeah.
leaders. And what's your thinking on the importance of the C's for them?
Yeah.
um, clarity, creativity, and connection.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what I have seen, and I've worked, like you said, I worked with everyone from for-profit to not-for-profit to nonprofit to NGOs, and what I see is so similar in that executive space to what it's like to start your own business, right? Because you've got this
Mhm.
idea of a thing you want to create. You're getting a lot of input maybe from people who have been there before or on a similar path, and you're trying to do everything, right? You're trying to
Yes.
have a LinkedIn presence and Instagram and an email list and a course and a one-on-one offer, or whatever. Like, you're trying to, like, in that startup space. And when you're the executive director, you're doing the same. You're trying to, like, understand the finances and figure out where to put the fundraising effort. And you've got all these things to keep track of.
Yes, it's a lot.
And when you're trying to hold all those plates up, you know, some of them are going to crash down. And you could either take that as okay, those things dropped off because it didn't light me up, or it wasn't getting the results I want. Or you could look at it as, like, I'm failing to do all the things.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'd also like to say you can either drop some plates or you can just collapse under the weight of all the plates, right?
True, true. Yeah, you can have plate imprints in your
Yeah,
face, and nobody's like, they're like, "Yeah, it's tough to start a nonprofit,"
right. Yeah.
like, "Get over it." It's like, no, no,
Yeah.
it's
Uh,
really daunting to kind of, like, wear all the hats and be responsible for all the
mhm,
execution of the thing, especially in that nonprofit space where you have a board that's,
mhm,
you know, making a lot of the steering decisions, right? And
mhm.
maybe a staff, which we see this in business and nonprofit, where their goal is to be a good employee,
Mhm.
where your vision is to grow impact. And so, like, asking somebody who's in an employee mindset of, like, I do the job, I get the paycheck, and I'm good, which is a completely valid path and a great
Yep.
experience. And a lot of people fit into that. But
Mhm.
if you've got that entrepreneurial energy that you bring into the executive role, um, you know, it's hard to expect the other people to put in the energy you have for the
Yep.
vision. And
Yep.
so, trying to keeping the lines of communication is really important,
Mhm.
right? So one
Mhm.
of the things I will do sometimes is I'll bring team members together, either in one of
Mhm.
those work sessions or in some sort of meeting, and we talk about, what's this person's expectation? And then I can act as sort of a translator between those people to find out what's really being said. Because somebody might be saying, I need XYZ. And the other person's like, I need this to move forward. And they just keep
Yep.
bumping into each other.
Yeah.
It's tough
I
to grow. Doing it
Yeah.
all yourself is hard, but you don't have to
Yes.
delegate or make tough decisions. You just
Yeah.
try to use up every ounce of energy and time you have as a single
Mhm.
human.
That is so true. I love that distinction you made between, um, employees with the mindset of, which is, like you said, a perfectly valid mindset. It can be very healthy, right? I'm going to be a good employee, but I'm not the one that's driving this, us having huge impact, right? And that the CEO or founder is like really focused on that.
Mhm.
We want to have great impact in the community. Have you ever heard that metaphor about the monkeys in the trees?
Mm-mm.
Oh, the monkey at the top has the view of the whole land in front of them. And the monkeys below just see the leader's butt. They just look up and they're like, "Oh yeah, there's our leader. Okay, I'm going to watch them." If they
Right.
start
I'm gonna move with the butt.
right, if they start scrambling down the tree, I know I need to scramble down the tree. There's danger, but they're looking out for that, right? And then the next level down, right, the kind of the line workers, the monkeys, they see the middle monkey butts, right? And they're like, okay, whatever they do, we'll know how to react from that. And it just kind of seems to fit with that to me. It's like it's a different view. It's just
Yeah.
a different view.
Yeah, and you
So,
need to you have to pause, this is the clarity part, to find out what it looks like at
mhm,
all spots on the tree. Because the
mhm.
person who's monitoring, for jaguars on the ground has
Yeah.
got valid insight and input.
Yes.
You still
Yes,
have to
that's
decide if we're
exactly
moving to a
right.
completely different tree. Like, that's a
Yes.
decision that probably needs to be made from the top, because if it doesn't work out, the person at the top is the one that's gonna lose their
Yeah.
vision or the
Yeah.
progress or whatever, which might result in the people losing their positions,
Yes.
right? So it's a shared
Yes.
goal, but what drives them to do the work day in and day out might be different motivators. You might
Mhm.
have a staff that's really driven towards your vision and they wanna
Mhm.
contribute in that way. Or you might have somebody where their zone of genius is just helping organize a squirrely brain person and
Yeah.
they enjoy that process.
Yeah.
So, like, assuming everyone thinks like you or works like you or is motivated in the way you are is going to ultimately result in a big disconnect where you're gonna hire and fire and hire and fire and hire and fire because you can't find the right person,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know?
Thank you for finishing that metaphor. Yeah, the monkeys at the bottom of the tree, they're looking on the ground. They're
Yeah,
watching for things. The middle ones are looking at the leaders and the other workers, right?
yeah.
I love that. Okay, sorry. I had to go back to that.
Hey, I like
Anyway,
to mix analogies
I
and
mean,
metaphors
let's
to
just
make
kind
things
of,
complicated.
we'll get there eventually, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So we have like just a couple more minutes. So what would you like to kind of end with? And then I'm
Hmm,
going to share how to connect with you before
okay.
we finish up.
Yeah, so when you asked me if there was something that this community could benefit from, two things came to mind. One I call like a team sync. It's just an opportunity to get your team members talking, and they can talk with me
Mhm.
individually and then together as a group, and we can kind of find out what's working from all angles. We'll go back to the tree, right? Like how we're all working together. Or it might be an opportunity to identify somebody that's doing something that doesn't they don't want to be doing that, and they could do this other thing that would be a bigger impact. And so I call that the team sync, and I think that would be good for folks that have a small nimble team of like partial or fractional support roles,
Yeah.
um, trying to get them all going in the same direction. Um, and then for the folks who are really, really focused on how we're going to get funding to get to this next level, I do something called like a marketing persona or a donor persona, which I think could rhyme so well. It'd be like donut persona. That's just a random thought. But anyway, um, where like where I can talk to either existing donors, people on your team, people who have awareness of who you're going after and picking like one really strong focus. So for
Mhm.
example, like I have a nonprofit who was very focused on trying to sell memberships to keep their organization going. But what they were missing was there was this nostalgia aspect in the senior community for that place as something that had a lot
Ah,
of meaning to them. And so shifting that donor persona to the person who wants to keep that experience
yeah.
and that memory alive is going to be a different type of thing rather than expecting like
Yes.
young families to
Yes.
pull more from their pockets, right?
Yep.
And so it's
Yep.
about, whether it's the team sync or the donor persona, it's about doing less, actually, doing a
Hmm.
whole lot less than you're currently
Hmm.
doing and getting a lot more results.
Right. Being
Um,
focused with it and
yeah,
knowing, using data to kind of drive what
yeah.
you do and figure it out. Right.
Because in corporate America, you can spend as a team in larger organizations a lot of time figuring things out and you're not gonna sync.
That's right.
When you're a
That's right.
small team and you're really nimble or you're independent, like each one of those little things can cause a huge shift in
Hmm.
your sanity and feeling like you're going to die at your desk or whatever, right? Um,
Yeah.
so I just really want to be out there supporting as many people as I can because I get to live vicariously through my clients. And when they're making
Yes.
huge impacts, whether that's regenerative design or impact through nonprofits or value-based entrepreneurship, like there's just so much more we can do as a
Yeah.
people when we prop each other up and get rid of all
Hmm.
the distractions.
Oh, that's a beautiful way to end. I love it. Um, so I just put your social handles in there and give me your website and I'll put it in too.
Oh, it's annabitters.com.
I
Keeping it
know
nice and
that.
simple.
Why did
And there's
I
a little let's
ask?
chat button and you just click on it. Just mention that you heard me here or saw me here and there's a discount for everybody.
And you'll chat.
Mhm.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so, so much. You always make me, and I know you caused everybody else listening to think in different ways. And that is a gift. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. You have to come back.
Excellent. Will do.
We'll get you scheduled. So, thanks for tuning in today, everyone. We're running a little over, but please join us next week, July 13th, when our guest will be Amanda Acton, founder and chief dot connector. I love that title too, of Acton Grant Consulting. And we're going to talk about demystifying logic models and ethically integrating community and client needs into your stories and pacing yourself as a grant consultant. So, that will appeal to several different audiences. Okay, Anna, you got to come back soon.
Will do.
All right. Thanks so much. Everybody have a great day, great weekend. Bye.